Alright, continuing on, part 2. So again, what is this Iran war all about? They keep changing their story. Rump says, they say, him and Netanyahu, it's to start Armageddon and bring Jesus back. Well, then they're admitting they're the Antichrist. Or, mostly it's, we're worried that Iran has a weapon and the first thing they're going to do is crash one over into Israel and kill the Jews. Well, let me clear up some things for you. Okay, first of all, you got the wrong targets, dumbasses, because who was it that's caused the most harm to Jews, equaling 6 million dead? Was it Iran? Was it Kuwait? Lebanon? Was it Oman? Was it Palestine? Qatar? Syria? Turkey? Yemen? Russia? No, none of those. But on the contrary, let's talk about who was responsible for their death and misery. Austria, Italy, Hungary, Poland, Romania, of course Germany, France, Ukraine, and to a lesser extent, yes, even the United States, which I'll get into. And another side thing is, at this point, what is it they were saying? This war is costing $1 billion or $2 billion a day. Isn't it costing more now to steal their oil than to just buy it? This isn't a very good business profile here. But where I left off, I had 2 articles left before getting into some atrocities. So let's go here. Now, another country that I want to mention that hated the Jews was Italy. Okay, and this is before the war. So let's see. So from 1938 until 1943, before the German occupation, before the implementation of the final solution in Italy with the deportations toward Auschwitz, fascist Italy enacted a comprehensive set of racial laws, the most draconian after Germany's, hereby following in the footsteps of the anti-Semitic policies promoted throughout the 30s by other European countries. With the introduction of the legge razziali, racial laws, in Italy in autumn of 1938, Italian Jews were deprived of their livelihoods and their right to public education, among many other restrictions and discriminations that prevented them from fully integrating into the collective life of the country. They were no longer allowed to marry non-Jews, to serve in the armed forces, or to employ non-Jewish employees. Entire families were suddenly faced with the total collapse of their livelihoods. For the first time in Italian history, Jews were defined in racial terms rather than religious ones. Children of Jewish parents were automatically defined as of Jewish race, regardless of professed religion. One, two, three. One of the main features of the Italian legal framework was that this legislation was adopted by a country which had never been characterized by open or by violent physical or oral acts targeting Jews. This holds true for both the periods before and during fascist rule. The Italian Jews were so assimilated and well integrated into Italian society that they had the highest intermarriage rate of any Jewish community in Europe, benefiting from the absence of legal and social disadvantages. And then finally, the documents of that time certainly show that Mussolini and a number of leading members of the extreme wing of fascism, such as Giovanni Preziosi, who was responsible for disseminating the protocols of the Elders of Zion in Italy, or Telesio Interlandi, who directed La Difesa de la Raza, The Defense of the Race, shared a common background, mostly made up of Catholic anti-Jewish prejudice, mixed to the anti-Semitic rhetoric, which during the 20s had become a common theme. Alright, now that's Italy. Now we'll go to Hungary. In May 1938, Hungary adopted a comprehensive anti-Jewish law that restricted the number of Jews in certain sectors of the economy. It became known as the First Jewish Law. Hungary enacted two more comprehensive Jewish laws in 1939 and 1941. The second and third laws defined Jews in racial terms, forbade intermarriage between Jews and non-Jews, and further excluded Jews from Hungarian economic life. There were also a number of other Hungarian anti-Jewish laws that discriminated against Jews. Okay. Alright. And so now I want to go on and read just some facts you probably don't even know. So the Catholic Church, like I said, not only taught Adolf, it only taught Adolf to hate Yehudim, it also provided him with his hated Nazi symbol, the swastika or twisted cross. Alright, Hitler is quoted as saying in a speech in 1926, Christ was the greatest early fighter in the battle against the world enemy, the Juden, pronounced Yuden in German. The work Christ started but could not finish, I, Adolf Hitler, will conclude. In 1933, during a meeting with the Catholic Church officials, Hitler declared that he merely wanted to do more effectively what the Church had attempted to accomplish for so long, maintaining that his actions, the attempt to exterminate all Jews on earth, were service to a common cause. Let me go over here to this. Let's go to photo 1. I'll show some photos. July 1933, the Catholic Church and Hitler signed an agreement or concordant that neither side would criticize the other. Issues over things like euthanasia. Oh, that's nothing. Nothing to mention. Eventually, the Nazis broke their side of the agreement. Catholic press was censored. Catholic schools shut down. So one Catholic Nazi priest. Show the second one. Okay. Whoops. So, there he is with a Catholic priest. There are plenty of those photos, too. The attempt to exterminate all Jews on earth were service to a common cause. The murder for God of Elohim's people was prophesied to occur by Yeshua in Yochanan 16.2. The time will come when anyone who kills you, Yehudim, and I'm pronouncing Jews correctly with a Y in this video, will think he is serving Elohim. Okay, another person who had a bad influence on Adolf was the German Roman Catholic Christian monk, Martin Luther. I'll go here to this. Martin Luther, right? Yeah. Well, Martin Luther. Hitler revered Luther as most Protestants do today. In his book, Mein Kampf is full of references to the spiritual hero, Martin Luther. I just want to read real quick right here. Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Nazi Party, had written about the alleged racial inferiority of non-Europeans, especially Arabs and Indians, in Mein Kampf, published in 1925. Hitler had also been contemptuous of anti-colonial movements, referring to them as a coalition of cripples. that could never be true partners of for the Germans. And then actively sought to influence strategic and economic developments in Iran, India, and the Arab Middle East. Consequently, they downplayed racist references to non-Jewish peoples in the Middle East in public discourse. And from their invasion of Iraq and Iran in the hopes of serving Great Britain's transit. Okay, so, okay. Mein Kampf. Luther, as I said, was a dyed-in-the-wool Yehudi hater, as can be evidenced by some of his quotes. Over his dumb quotes here. Here he is right here. He calls them, "Dear Christian, be advised," and so, this is Martin Luther, "so not doubt that next to the devil you have no more bitter, venomous, and vehement foe than a real Jew who earnestly seeks to be a Jew. A Jewish heart is as hard as a stone and iron and cannot be moved by any means. If the Jews were punished in the most gruesome manner, so that the streets ran with blood, so that their dead would be counted not in the hundreds of thousands but millions, it would not be possible to convert these children of the devil." Okay. And he also goes on to say, down here, I'm going to read off. Okay, right here, I'm going to start reading this. "For their synagogues or churches should be set on fire. Secondly, their homes should likewise be broken down and destroyed. They ought to be put under one roof or in a stable, like gypsies, in order that they may realize that they are not masters in our land, as they boast, but miserable captives. Thirdly, they should be deprived of their prayer books and Talmuds, in which such idolatry, cursing, and blasphemy are taught. Fourthly, their rabbis must be forbidden under threat of death to teach any more. Fifthly, passport and traveling privileges should be absolutely forbidden to the Yuden," which is correct for Jew. "Sixthly, they ought to be stopped from usury. All their cash and valuables of silver and gold ought to be taken from them and put aside for safekeeping," which they indeed did. "Seventhly, let the young and strong Yuden and Yudenesses be given the flail, the axe, the hoe, the spade, and the distaff and spindle." Go to photo 3. Hitler greets two Roman Catholic officials in 1934. Hitler said, "As for the Jews, I'm just carrying on with the same policy which the Catholic Church has adopted for 1,500 years." Hitler followed Luther's advice, and even added step number 8: murder all who have 1/4 or more Yehudi blood or ancestry, including all women of all ages, all male infants and children, all older men, all the sick and infirm men, and work the young healthy males to death or on a starvation diet. I'm sure Martin Luther would have heartily approved of step number 8. 1933 on the Nazis can count on ample support from the German churches. With few exceptions, both the Protestant and Catholic churches endorsed the racial and political principles of the Nazis. On March 28, 1933, the Catholic bishops declared their loyalty to Hitler. Now, where have we heard that before? Declaring loyalty to some idiot. The next month, the Protestant. In 1933, the anti-Semitic German Christians. Okay. Still another photo reveals a festival for Catholic youth ceremony in Berlin in August 1933 and shows 7 black-robed Catholic clerics, all with their right arms extended out at about 45 degrees, and a Nazi salute and shouting, "Long live the Fuhrer." Let me go back to "Long live the Fuhrer." No, not that one. I don't know. The following information about the Holocaust, where more than 6 million Yehudim were brutally and methodically killed by the Nazis and their willing accomplices, the police and the civilian population of Christian Europe, is taken from a book titled We Remember the Holocaust by David Adler. These atrocities, which were completely legal in Germany and its occupied countries, occurred over a 12-year period from 1933 and ending in 1945. But most of the mass murdering took place subsequent to the beginning of World War II in September of 1939, when the Germans invaded Poland and thereby took control of about 2 million Yehudim living in Western Poland. Okay. I'll make sure I show these slides. I'll get some more gruesome ones. Like a shark in a feeding frenzy, the killing of Yehudim started slowly but rapidly escalated as they refined their techniques while developing an insatiable lust for Yehudi blood. Mr. Adler's book consists mainly of graphic personal eyewitness accounts of some of the few survivors. The Nazis wasted no time attacking the approximately 700,000 Jews living in Germany once Hitler came to power as Chancellor in 1933. The first concentration camp opened in Dachau. Let's see. 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, whoops. Move. There we go. Alright, just to bring that home. For people that don't believe that the Holocaust existed. It was established by Heinrich Himmler, leader of the SS, as a model camp. At the camp were 32 wooden barracks in 2 rows, all surrounded by an electric fence. Any prisoner caught walking toward the fence was shot. Camps such as Dachau, in which the enemies of Nazism were concentrated, became known as concentration camps. Labor and death camps set up later followed in many ways the brutal example set by Dachau and the other early concentration camps. Let's show... Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Whoops, not that one. There's a main entrance gate at Auschwitz. On the Christian holiday of April Fool's Day, April 1st, 1933, the Nazis encouraged a boycott of all Jewish-owned stores and businesses and Jewish goods. The Christian German citizenry needed little encouragement to boycott the Jewish stores. Get over here. See? And 8. And Jews not allowed. Their stores. Officials throughout Germany, eager to show their support of, and they also, any street named after a Jew was renamed. Monuments to Jews were destroyed. 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See, they basically looted and desecrated graves. I mean, how sick can you be? How evil can you be? They call them the devil, but who's the devil here? Let's get real about it. Of course, the devil lies. It's really the only power he has over us. Or destroy. The names of Jewish soldiers were scratched off German memorials to the war dead. Terza Rothschild, who lived in Hamburg, Germany, remembers, I saw Yuden, Jews not wanted signs. They appeared all over in food stores, clothing stores, and department stores. even though it wasn't the law yet. Jewish judges and lawyers were shut out of German courts, and Jewish teachers, bankers, and railroad workers were fired. On May 10th, the Nazis began an assault of a different kind in Berlin. An estimated 40,000 people watched as 5,000 German students marched behind cars and trucks loaded with books. The students carried lit torches and they sang Nazi and college songs. In a second. Where'd that go? Oh, well, let's be over here. I just saw it. Oh, this is annoying. Wait, hold on. Hold on a second. It was over here. Wait. Oh, here it is. They burned books. Okay, German students. The students carried lit torches and they sang Nazi and college songs. The president of the student organization, wearing a Nazi uniform, declared that they had gathered to burn up German books. Oh, I got all that. As the books written by Jews and others were thrown into the fire, another student called out the names of the authors. Sigmund Freud, Erich and Maria Remarque, Heinrich Heine, let's just, one of the things you know, Albert Einstein, Jack London, Ernest Hemingway, Helen Keller, and more. They said, Jewish intellectualism is dead, and again the crowd cheered. Millions of books were burned. Millions of books were burned. Millions of books were burned. Okay? A century before, Heinrich Heine, a German poet who was a Yehudi, wrote, "Where one burns books, one will in the end burn people." How prophetic Mr. Heine was, because 8 years after the Nazi book burnings, Jews were burned to death. Only 2 youth groups were allowed, the Hitler Youth for Boys and League of German Girls. Both groups taught children to spy and report on enemies of Nazism, including their own parents. Including their own parents. The Nuremberg Laws were passed on September 15, 1935, which denied the Jews citizenship in Germany and prohibited them from flying a German flag. In 1937, the concentration camp in Buchenwald in central Germany was open for business. Take a look at that again. No, not that. Concentration camp. Let's look at that. Look at that right there. Just look at that. Just look. That's what you gotta. Are you gonna fight it now or fight it later near the ovens? Okay, you can nip it in the bud now or later. Okay. The concentration camp. I already read that. Okay. Nazi police followed the German army into Austria, and within days, Jews lost their rights as citizens. German SS kicked and spit at Jews. They forced them to clean the streets and public toilets. Let's look at that. 2, 3, 4. Clean the streets. There was one guy who was told to clean the street with a toothbrush. To crawl on the ground and eat grass, to run in circles until they collapsed. Many Austrians watched the spectacle and laughed. Don't forget that. They weren't They weren't victims trying to just do what Hitler said. They enjoyed it. And there's one guy in the book whose father was on the street scrubbing. They laughed and jeered. These were customers of long standing. He considered them to be friends, but I guess not. Because in this life, you're lucky. Like somebody told my dad once, engineer, you're lucky if you can count on one hand, the amount of real friends you have. Anti-Jewish laws were passed in Christian Hungary. Okay. And anti-Semitism was rampant in Austria, just as an example of it. On Good Friday, Holy Thursday, and Easter Sunday, I was warned by my parents not to go out because Jews will be beaten up. This was before Hitler marched into Austria. The people would come home from church, and any Jew they could find they would beat up. Seems they were getting a hate-filled sermon against the Jews at church. Oh, I gotta end here. We'll have to do part 3. 26 minutes.